Welcome to Pontification Nation. I'm your host, Ricky Skittle, coming to you live, as always, from my mother's basement. And we got just an explosive piece of information that's just coming out today about the 2016 election and Paul Manafort and the Ukraine. And you may say, well, Ricky, we already know that Paul Manafort worked with the Ukraine because, he's going to jail for all that stuff, and they said that he was working with the Ukraine, and that was the whole point of him not registering under FARA. And I might say, well, you're right, that's correct. But we have new information regarding all of that, ladies and gentlemen, so buckle up, pontificators. It's time to get down and get dirty. The first piece we're going to look at is just this article by John Solomon from The Hill. And if you remember correctly, John Solomon is one of the people who actually knows the whole Spygate story, or at least as much of it as more of it than anyone else on the planet, except for maybe a small group in the Trump administration. But in any case, he's interviewing essentially the Attorney General of Ukraine. So the Attorney General of Ukraine is talking about this guy, Mr. Sitnik. And Artem Sitnik is the head of the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, or NABU for short. So the basic gist of this interview is that Lutsenko, that's the Attorney General, we'll just call him AG, is probing a claim from a member of the Ukrainian parliament that the director of the NABU, Artem Sitnik, attempted to the benefit of Hillary Clinton interfere in the 2016 presidential election. So here, basically, they're talking about the fact that there is a tape of people discussing interfering in the United States election with the expressed intent on helping Hillary Clinton. So why would the Ukraine attempt to help Hillary Clinton? And if you remember back in my Muellergate video, Bob Mueller is a Corrupt Criminal, Volumes 1 and 2, which is on my page in a playlist, which you should watch, I talk about how Manafort, it was weird because Manafort is, under this long criminal investigation of many multiple years, run by Andrew Weissman in the fraud department and the tax department, right? So Weissman has all this data on Manafort. I believe personally, and this is just my opinion, that Manafort was in trouble and they offered him a way out via getting them dirt on the Trump campaign. And then Manafort gets blindsided by all this Ukrainian information that comes out while he's the campaign manager. And I believe that was a leak from our Justice Department because Manafort wasn't giving them what they wanted as far as their deal was. If you go into the Trump campaign and get us dirt, we won't prosecute you for all this other naughtiness, which is why it was really weird. The whole situation around Manafort is weird. Let's just put it that way. So now we find out that this guy, Artem Sitnik, who's in charge of the NABU over in the Ukraine, is the person who released all of the information on Manafort. So basically, one of two things. Either I'm totally wrong about this, and Manafort, is what he did what he did, and he is who he is, and he's not a plant. Or two, Hillary Clinton may have gotten her wires crossed and not realized that Manafort was inserted into the campaign. And then she ended up using the fact that he was in the campaign to get the dirt out, or they put Manafort in to intentionally get the dirt out so that they could further their Russian conspiracy because, supposedly Eastern Ukraine is Russian and Western Ukraine is European and blah, blah, blah. Personally, I think that they probably put him in there, and then once they weren't getting what they needed out of him, they pulled this NABU guy to put the information out there. I think that's probably the most believable situation. So they get some comments from the State Department, which is total BS. And they reached out to comments from the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine, NABU, and the Clintons, but they haven't gotten anything back from them yet. So basically, according to the member of parliament of Ukraine, he got the court decision that the NABU official conducted an illegal intrusion into the American election campaign. That means we think Mr. Sitnik, the NABU director, officially talked about criminal investigation with Mr. Manafort, and at the same time, Mr. Sitnik stressed it in such a way he wanted to assist the campaign of Mrs. Clinton, he continued. Now, when I first read this, I thought he was saying that he was talking to Manafort about the criminal investigation that was going on about Manafort, which then I was like, wait a minute, that's just crazy, because he's talking to him about the criminal investigation and then leaking those same details. Manafort is definitely a double agent. But when I look at him, when I listen to him talk, I think there's an issue with translation of some of the words he was using in Ukrainian and some of the English language words. So it's a little bit tough to kind of piece together, but there's some important pieces that are in this testimony or this interview that he's giving. So what we're going to do is we're going to listen to just a little snippet of this and try to figure out for ourselves what they're talking about here. So he had just kind of gone over and talked about how this guy basically was unearthed by someone in parliament to do this. So then John Solomon comes and asks him the following question, and you can listen to his response through a translator, so it's a little tough. So just bear with me on this.
Given that information, is that the same NABU director that also chose to shut down part of the investigation into Burisma? Same office, same person?
Yes, this is the same director who was personally congratulated by Mr. Biden when he was selected as the chief of NABU. It's the same director who closed the file against Burisma. It's the same director who revealed criminal case information regarding Mr. Manafort. And this is the same director who complained about head of Special Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, Mr. Colluded, whose resignation demands U.S. Embassy.
Do you feel, in light of all of this, that you had a NABU director that was trying to interfere by his own admission in the U.S. election by releasing the Manafort documents, same person who then shuts down the Burisma investigation that your office would have had sufficient evidence to pursue, that there might have been some U.S. interference or external political interference in various prosecutions in Ukraine, something that would trouble you? Does that trouble you that there's a possibility of external political influence on these investigations?
I think I already gave my reply to these questions, and unfortunately only yesterday I got the court decision in December acknowledging the engagement of into the U.S. election campaign. Therefore, today we'll launch a criminal investigation about this fact, and we'll give a legal assessment of this.
Okay, so basically what he's saying there is, yes, there's criminality. The other thing on the next part of this, and I'll link this into the description so you guys can watch this if you want, but on the next clip from this interview, he talks about how they have an issue with the U.S. ambassador to the Ukraine because she gave them a list of people who they are not permitted to go after or prosecute in Ukraine. And they're basically saying, listen, you know, this is our land, this is our law, we're going to enforce our law, we're not going to allow you to tell us what to do. So this is going on now, right? The U.S. ambassador to the Ukraine right now is telling the Ukraine who they can and cannot prosecute. Now the question then becomes, what is Burisma? Burisma is a Ukrainian gas company. And guess who got appointed to the board in 2014? R. Hunter Biden, the son of Joe Biden. And guess who got it appointed along with him? Christopher Hines, John Kerry's stepson, Teresa Hines' son. It doesn't get any stinkier than this. So what they're saying is this guy NABU, this guy Sitnik in charge of the NABU, is essentially on tape saying that he wanted to assist the campaign of Hillary Clinton by releasing the black ledger on Manafort, which shows all of his dirty dealings in the shell companies and everything. And he also shut down an investigation into Burisma, and the ambassador of the United States was trying to tell the Ukrainian attorney general who he could and could not prosecute. He gave him a list of people that they couldn't prosecute. I'm going to put this in the notes. You guys should actually read this because it's very important. It's very long, though. So let's just look at, these questions that this person who wrote this at Naked Capitalism. Wholehearted approval was not universally forthcoming. Isn't that a bit fishy? Why would you say that? Because he's the vice president's son. That's a coincidence. This is totally based on merit, said Burisma's chairman, Alan Apter. He doesn't sound very Ukrainian. He's American, as is the other new board member, Devin Archer. Who? Devin Archer, who works with Hunter Biden at Rosemont Seneca Partners, which is half owned by Rosemont Capital, a private equity firm founded by Archer and Christopher Hines. Who? Christopher Hines, John Kerry's stepson. I think Putin's propaganda people can take a long weekend. Their work is being done for them. What do you mean? Hasn't Joe Biden pledged to help Ukraine become more energy independent in the wake of its troubles with Russia? Well, yes. And isn't Burisma, as a domestic producer, well positioned to profit from rising gas prices caused by the conflict? Now, this is 2014. You got to remember, this is when Crimea is happening. This is when there's the war in eastern Ukraine. Possibly, but Hunter Biden is a salaried board member, not an investor. According to an anonymous source in the Wall Street Journal, neither Rosemont Seneca nor Rosemont Capital has made any financial investment in Burisma. So it's not fishy at all? No one's saying that. Do say somebody needs to get involved in Ukraine's corporate governance, and it might as well be the clutch of a rich, well-connected American dudes with weird first names. Don't say. Thanks, Dad. And the White House did the best they could with the optics. The White House shot down any notion of a conflict of interest with Hunter Biden's appointment. In a statement provided to Business Insider, Joe Biden's spokesperson, Kendra Barkov, said Hunter's appointment did not constitute an endorsement by the vice president. Hunter Biden is a private citizen and a lawyer. The vice president does not endorse any particular company and has no involvement with this company, Barkov said. For additional questions, I refer you to Hunter's office. Now, this is all very fascinating. It's very interesting. Who knows what's actually going on here? This is something that I came across as I'm doing this video, so I haven't really gotten into the back of it. But Molly Hemingway, I'm going to read Molly Hemingway's article, and we might continue down this path. Molly Hemingway at the Federalist nails it. From her list of 9 questions, questions 7 and 9 are worth particular emphasis. Why would a Ukrainian energy company want Devin Archer or Hunter Biden to serve on its board? This has to be a hoax, right? It's so bizarre that you almost have to assume it's a hoax. It sounds more like a cliched movie plot. A shady foreign oil company co-ops the vice president's son in order to capture lucrative foreign investment contracts than something that would actually happen in real life. But the indications as of this afternoon are that the board appointments are actually happened and that a Ukrainian energy company has retained the counsel of the vice president's son and the Secretary of State's close family friend and top campaign bundler. Now, when I tell you that this stuff is crazy and far-reaching and deeper and darker than you ever even want to know, I mean it. Because every time you hear a word or a name that you've never heard before and you Google it, it takes you down this path of dirty, dark corruption. And that all the roads lead to the White House from January 20th, 2009 until January 20th, 2016. Or 17. My bad. I was like, wait, that's not 8 years. 2017. Every single road leads to the White House. There's just no 2 ways to cut it. And just to add on a little bit of flavor at the end here, this guy, Obama White House counsel, faces possible prosecution in Mueller-initiated probe. This guy here, Greg Craig, who was the White House counsel for like a year before they installed what's her name, who's totally corrupt and does all basically the Michael Cohen of Barack Obama, just a corrupt, disgusting individual who cleans up messes. So basically here they're saying that Bob Mueller is looking into this. So this guy works at Skadden Arps. Skadden Arps is already mentioned in indictments. There's already been an attorney from Skadden Arps who works in Europe, I believe, in Holland, that has gone to jail for 30 days because of his dealings in the dirty dossier and the dirty corrupt, whatever you want to call this, Spygate. Now they have this Greg Craig, who was the White House counsel for Barack Obama, who may soon be charged by the Justice Department for engaging in illegal, unregistered overseas lobbying, and in a case initially probed by special counsel, a development that would make him the first Democrat to face prosecution amid the long-running Russia investigation. Now, that's not going to be the case for very long, but so this case centers on lobbying work that Craig performed in 2012 for the Russian-backed president of Ukraine, Viktor Yanukovych, while Craig was a partner at the law firm Skadden Arps, Slate, Meagher, and Flom. Craig allegedly never registered as a foreign agent under a U.S. law known as the FARA, which we talked about ad nauseum, which requires lobbyists to declare publicly if they represent foreign leaders, governments, or their political parties. FARA violations were only rarely prosecuted until Mueller took aim at Paul Manafort, President Trump's former campaign manager, for his lobbying work in the Ukraine. Now, when I said earlier, there's 5 countries at least. So we have the UK, right, where a lot of this actually went down. We have Australia, which downer. We have Italy. We have the Ukraine. And Italy is where the Lynx campus is and all that stuff went on. You have the Seychelles with what's his name, the Navy SEAL, Betsy DeVos's brother, Eric Prince, and so all kinds of countries where all this stuff is going on, and it's just literally insane, people. I'm telling you right now, the stuff that happened during the 8 years of Obama, and who knows, maybe the 8 years of Bush, and maybe the 8 years of Clinton before him, maybe the 4 years of Bush before him, who knows how deep and far this goes. But it goes for a long, long time in a million different directions, and there's no way for them to stop it now, right? Hillary Clinton had to win. That's why the DNC screwed Bernie. That's why they did what they did during the election. Because if Hillary Clinton didn't win, the whole world was effed. And I believe that. And I believe you should too. Thank you so much for watching, listening, subscribing, sharing, liking, and commenting. Let me know what you think. Because this has got to go deeper. I got to read this Molly Hemingway thing. Let me know what you think in the comments about this. But it sounds like a James Bond movie, just craziness. It doesn't say. It's like Molly Hemingway said. It almost seems like a hoax because it's just too much. It's too much like a movie for this to be actually real. For Pontification Nation, this is Ricky Skittle, and I am out.